Hi everyone and welcome to Shaluso. Now those of you who have been following the channel probably realized from my last few videos that I was in Singapore back in August and have been releasing content based on that lately. And you may have also noticed that I went to Singapore with my Tudor Black Bay Chrono and came back with this, my Cartier Pasha seed timer. So yes, I sold my Black Bay Chrono after owning it for less than a year. So today I'm going to be talking about why I sold it, what led to it, and what lessons I learned from that. But first, a quick recap of the Black Bay Chrono. So the Black Bay Chrono was the first complication introduced to the Tudor Black Bay line and was released in 2017. Now since then, they've also released the two-tone version, the SNG, and that was released at Baselworld this year in 2019. And then also in September 2019, they released the all-black version. So I'll talk a little bit more about those later. But getting back to the recap of the Black Bay Chrono, so it's a stainless steel chronograph using the Breitling B01 movement, 70-hour power reserve, 2-register layout with a date. It's got a vertical clutch, column wheel chronograph, and also, of course, it has Tudor's own decoration to it. Now, first I want to talk about what I liked about this watch. If you want to see the full review from back when I just started the channel, you can check it up. I think it's up there or maybe up there, wherever the videos come out from. But I'll just recap the things that I liked about it on first impression and how that sort of changed after owning it, and the same thing for the dislikes. So the first thing that I really liked about this watch, and still to this day do, is the design of it. I love how distinctive it is. It still looks like a Black Bay, but it still has its own identity. It really stands out from the rest of the collection in my opinion. And it stands out compared to other watches in general. And that's something I really liked about it and still do to this day. The other thing I really liked about it was that it represents amazing value. And again, it still does. When I did the original review, the cheapest Breitling you could get that had the same movement cost $7,500 US, and that was in the Navitimer 8 range. Since then, Breitling has actually rearranged their offering. They've cut down a lot of the Navitimer 8s. So now the cheapest B01 equipped watch you can get that still features on a bracelet is actually the Super Ocean Heritage on the bracelet, and that's about $8,000. For perspective, the Black Bay Chrono now sells for $5,000 US, and I bought mine for, at the time, around $3,500 US. So definitely a big saving on anything even remotely comparable. And that's before you compare the other things that are available around the $5,000 US range. So it represented a great value and I really liked that about it. And then one thing that I didn't highlight in the original review, but definitely I do want to highlight now after having owned it, is the interaction with the movement itself. Apart from being very convenient in having a 70-hour power reserve, just every time you had to wind it, every time I would activate or deactivate the chronograph, it just had such a great quality feel to it. And that's something you can really appreciate and that really you don't start to appreciate until you've experienced a few more watches. Like I said, when I did my initial review of the Black Bay Chrono, that was my second watch. I had bought my first watch 2-3 months before it, and I hadn't even started reviewing other people's watches or starting getting watches lent in. So I really didn't have that much experience when I did the original review, but definitely I want to highlight the quality of that movement now. Moving on to the dislikes about this watch, one of the things that I highlighted in the original review and definitely made itself more prominent as I owned it was the thickness. Measuring at nearly 15 millimeters thick, this watch always sat very high on the wrist. This not only impacted being able to get a cuff over it, be that a jacket cuff or a shirt cuff, but also it affected the experience when you put it on straps. When you put it on a NATO, it became very, very top heavy, would move around a lot, and on a leather strap, you really needed to buckle it down tight so that it wouldn't move around either. So that was something that I highlighted when I originally bought it, and that owning it just became more of a pain, so I ended up wearing it less, and the less I wore it, the more I thought I should just sell this. Another downside to the watch was the screw down pushers. Now I've tried a lot of other watches that also feature screw down pushers. There are some Omegas that have screw down looks, but you don't actually have to screw them down, so you can always use the chronograph, or even the Rolex Daytona. It's just one screw to undo it and use it, whereas on this, it took me about 3 seconds because you have to unscrew it twice to really get it out so you can use it. The best example of screw down pushers is something like Jaeger-LeCoultre, when they used to have those half-turn pushers. But at the end of the day, having that screw down, it limited how often I would use the chronograph. And also the fact that it only timed things for 45 minutes. In my original review, I thought that wouldn't really be an issue, but owning it, I realized that anything under an hour, you can sign with a dive bezel. Anything over, you need an extra register. So 45 minutes was never enough, plus the screw down pushers. In the end, I never used the chronograph. So again, I found myself with a watch that I wasn't really using to its full potential, and that contributed as well to me wanting to sell it. But all of these reasons Honestly, they're things of preference. They're things that maybe won't matter to you, but they mattered to me. But more importantly, and this is something that didn't even have anything to do with the watch itself, it's more to do with the fact that I sold this watch because I bought it for the wrong reasons to begin with. Originally, I had wanted a Speedmaster 57, but I couldn't afford it. So for me, the Black Bay Chrono offered a really great way to have something that kind of had that vintage look to it, but that also I thought to myself, all right, it's a Tudor, it'll hold its value. So I'll just buy it now, maybe turn a profit, or maybe at least, break even when I sell it until I can afford a 57. By doing that, essentially what I did is I doomed myself from the beginning because I never really fell in love with the watch. I always knew I was gonna sell it, and it gave it a disadvantage from the onset that it never really had an opportunity for me to particularly like it because I always thought there was another watch that I wanted more. And that's one thing I'd really like to focus on is the idea of if you buy something for the wrong reasons, you're down for disappointment. A lot of people will debate whether you should buy watches as investments or to hold their value or not. Whatever your stance is on that, if you buy a watch for the sake of investing in or for the sake of it holding its value, chances are you're not going to wear it very much. Chances are you want to sell it when you know it's the right time as opposed to sell it when you want to. There's a completely different mindset that goes into it. At the end of the day, I had bought a watch and I was still wearing it. I was still treating it like a watch I wanted to keep when I knew I wasn't going to keep it. So that kind of ruined the owning experience and it made it a lot easier to sell it. And on top of that, because of those misaligned objectives, it meant that I also ended up selling it actually at a bit of a loss. I ended up selling it for the equivalent of about $2,500 US. So I lost about $1,000 on the sale. Now, part of that was because I had been looking for this watch for a very long time. I saw it there in Singapore and I thought, all right, I need to get it because I didn't know when the next time I would come across it would be. And I had with me a watch that I didn't really plan on keeping. So that added up to a very hasty transaction. So that's a little bit of an overview of why I sold it. And obviously at the end of the day, part of the point of this channel is to share my experiences. When I first bought my Black Bay, I had been owning and collecting watches for maybe 2-3 months and I was just riding that wave. I saw it, I liked it. I knew it wasn't the watch I ended up wanting, but I still wanted to scratch that itch, so I bought it. But I do want to stress that it is an amazing watch, and if you do like it and want to buy it for the right reasons, definitely go ahead. Not because I sold it doesn't mean I didn't enjoy having it while I did, it's just I never fell in love with it. And also it served as a great way to learn a lot of things about my own preferences. First off, when I tried it on, I thought, thickness, I probably won't care too much about it. But at the end of the day, I did. For me, it was a discomfort, and also it's influenced now my decision regarding the Speedmaster 57. Considering that that is even thicker than the Black Bay was, I'm seriously reconsidering whether I should want it or not, and I've actually tried it on a few more times, and I don't think I'm going to be going that route. Currently, I'm looking more towards a Speedmaster Broad Arrow, which is a little bit thinner. It's thinner than the Black Bay is. It was 14 millimeters. But again, this time I know I should try it on a lot more and really do my research before I end up pulling the trigger on it. The other thing I learned is my preference towards chronographs. Like I said, when I originally reviewed this watch, I didn't think that I was actually going to be timing things for longer than an hour. I thought, all right, 45 minutes is more than enough. But the reality is that anything I wanted to time was either really short, at which point having those screwed on pushers was a pain and impacted whether I was going to bother using the chronograph or not, or it was something I could time with a dive bezel, so I thought, all right, my Seamaster, I can do that. With this one now, I can do that. Or it was something that if it was over an hour, I would just time with my phone. So when I think of a chronograph watch, now I'm going to approach it as I need something that can be easily engaged and also that can time for over an hour. Otherwise, for me, it's not really worth it. That's my preference, but the point I'm trying to make is that in this hobby, we can always learn new things, and that's the fun of it. I don't regret for a minute having bought it because I learned a lot from it, I enjoyed it, it's a cool watch, and it made my knowledge a little bit broader, and it gave me something that I can share with you guys. So let me know in the comments below what you think about the Black Bay Chrono. What experiences have you had in the past with watches maybe that you've bought that you thought maybe you shouldn't have bought, or also which ones have you sold that maybe you regret selling now? I'd love to know your experiences in the comments below. And of course, if you like this video, please do like it and share it. If you want to see some more pictures of my Black Bay Chrono, check out my Instagram at Shaluso. And of course, if you want to keep seeing new watch videos, make sure you subscribe to Shaluso as well. In any case, thanks for watching this video, and we'll catch you on the next one.